Hey everybody, and welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon. With me, as always, is Caleb, and we are continuing on with the Mad Max series. We're going to be talking about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. But before we do all that, we're going to do like we always do. And Caleb, have you been fighting any men to the death inside of a big cage?
No,
Well,
no,
have you
that
been watching anything cool on TV?
not anything quite as cool as that. I can say that much. I didn't even get any Mad Max video game time in, so
Yes.
no post-apocalyptic fighting for me really. That's like man, it's just like one of those large open world things, and it can take quite a bit of time. So we'll see kind of how much I get to dedicate towards that and how far I get with it. But yeah, no gaming for that. And honestly, not really any watching. We're recording earlier in the week than normal, and so I'm missing a few nights. And I finished the Fallout series, so I'm actually kind of like sitting here, not sure what direction to go in. I really need to make a list of movies. Um, so that I know what to choose from quickly because it's really easy for me to just flip over and do watch Bob's Burgers
Yeah.
instead of trying to search and find something that I'm interested in watching. So sometime I'll need to make a list because then that'll make it easier for me to make decisions.
Yeah. Rock. Oh man, so things that I've watched. I think we watched like one episode of Grey's Anatomy. I'm getting kind of burned out on that show. Like it's basically just a bunch of doctors sleeping with each other and then like the most dramatic things always happen. And it's just a little ridiculous at times. Also been watching King of the Hill. I've been so like freaking swamped lately and just exhausted all the time
Mhm.
that I tend to fall asleep when I watch things lately. So yeah, struggling with that. I watched a slasher movie called Night of Terror. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I don't even remember if it was this past week or previous to that. And to be honest, I don't remember too much about that movie other than I thought it was pretty crappy.
Had you seen it before?
No, that was a first time watch.
Okay.
And anybody new to the show, I've been watching like 80s slasher movies for probably like over 10 years now. Oh man, it's gotta be like 15 years. And I'm a super nerd and I keep track of which ones I watch and I grade them and everything based on different categories and everything, and I give them a one, like a 1 to a 10 rating. So that one
Uh,
got a 2.6, so that really tells you all you need to know about that one.
oof.
Uh yeah. I've also been watching a little bit of Degrassi Junior High. I mean, I've watched that so many times. It's just something good to have on the background when I'm working. Um, I think I already mentioned the whole, yeah, I mentioned the Donnie Darko was on Joe Bob.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And then I watched the latest episode of Who Killed WCW. That was pretty good. They mostly talked about um the popularity of Goldberg and then how they mishandled that and how Goldberg wasn't like fully ready to be on the main roster and wrestle because he like didn't understand a lot of things. Like, he was super green and
Okay.
he just like blew up and got super popular, so they were like forced to put him out there basically. But it was kind of interesting. And oh, I also watched part of the newest ESPN 30 for 30. It's about the riot that happened after the Vancouver Canucks lost in the finals.
Okay.
I think I saw maybe like 10 minutes of that, and then I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up and it was playing something completely different, so I need to go back to that and watch it. But yeah, that or I just need to go to bed. Maybe that's what it is. Catch up on
Nice.
some sleep, and then I won't be falling asleep during all these dang movies. But that's pretty much all I've got. But I did also watch Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and I think it's about time we just talk about George Miller and George Ogilvy. Got a double George action here. The plot is after being exiled from the most advanced town in a post-apocalyptic Australia, a drifter travels with a group of abandoned children to rebel against the town's queen. The cast, we got Mel Gibson as Max, Bruce Spence as Jedediah, Tina Turner as Auntie Entity, Adam Cockburn as Jedediah Jr., Frank Thring as the Collector, Angelo Rossito as the Master, Paul Larson as the Blaster, and Angry Anderson as Iron Bar. Angry Anderson. That
Nice.
sounds like a really bad, like, 80s jobber wrestler.
I really liked that summary
Yeah,
about,
abandoned children.
yeah, working with abandoned children to take down the leader.
You can work with abandoned children too if you join the United Way.
My gosh. That's
Uh,
funny.
it's basically Max was just in a Big Brothers program. Oh man. This I think this is the first time I've seen this movie all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces.
That's
Like I've seen
crazy.
the like half of the Thunderdome fight before because I don't remember the bungee cords. I mean, we'll talk about that, but I remember that. I remember obviously the Tina Turner song,
Oh yeah.
the theme song for the movie. Uh and I remember her being in it. And I also remember Master Blaster, and that's really about it.
Okay. Yeah, this is probably like somewhere around 6 or 8 times I've watched this.
Rock.
So there were definitely some things I didn't remember thoroughly. I'll probably get to that later on, not to talk to a lot of things. But since we talked about cast and everything, one thing that I wanted to talk about kind of right away and see your opinion on was the pilot,
Hmm.
Jedediah.
Yeah.
Did you understand it that he was the same guy from the last movie?
That's what I thought. Like he's the gyro captain
Yeah, but like
from Road Warrior, but it's like Max didn't even know who he was.
exactly. Like they didn't acknowledge that they knew each other, and he was basically like Max's, well, I wouldn't call him best friend, but he like the
The
gyro captain
sidekick.
from the last movie was like the sidekick and like looked up to Mad Max and, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really confused too. I think I have something in trivia and facts about it.
Okay.
Um, yeah. I don't think there was really much thought put behind it in this movie. Um, if we're staying on cast, Tina Turner being in this movie was an odd choice.
Right.
I'm not sure. I I mean, to get this out there, I had this as one of the negatives. Like, if I'm thinking a post-apocalyptic action movie from Australia, the last person I'm probably thinking of is Tina Turner.
I can
Like
get that.
nothing against Tina Turner. Like she was an icon of the 80s and like she was a super strong woman who had to deal with a lot of crazy stuff in her life and like came out the other end, even bigger than she was in the 60s. And like doing all that, like she was an inspiration to people and like someone to be admired. And one of those people, it's like no one disliked Tina Turner, like one of those celebrities that no one like disliked.
Yeah.
But I just question her casting in this movie.
Okay. d- Take it for what it is. How do you feel like she did?
I feel like she did a decent job. I mean, she's not really a full blown actress. I mean, she's a singer and performer.
Yeah,
And I
and
can't
I
remember. This came out in '85, so um, I don't know because she did that. There's that biopic
mhm,
that was about her. What's Love Got to Do with It? I'm not
uh,
sure when that came out in sometime in the '80s or like the early '90s, something like that. And it was 1993 is when that came out. And she's really only in the end of it because Angela Bassett plays her in it. But that's the only other thing I've ever seen her in, like acting wise.
yeah.
So I mean, for not having too much acting experience, I thought she did a pretty decent job. But I just questioned like her casting in it. It just seems weird.
Yeah, sure. No, I definitely agree that's weird, and, um, I really am curious, and I don't know if you'll have something in facts and trivia on exactly why or how that happened with
Uh-huh.
Tina Turner, but, I feel like, I mean, she did fine. It's not I wouldn't say it in a way that she really brought something amazing to the movie, but
What's the deal with stunt casting famous musicians in post-apocalyptic movies revolved around a wandering person? Because there's like Tina Turner in this, and then there's Tom Petty in The Postman.
hey,
I
don't say
had to,
anything bad about the Postman.
I had to throw that out there because I know how much you like The Postman.
Gosh, I haven't seen that
Uh,
forever. It's so funny because I defend that movie in Waterworld so much, and it's been so long since I've seen them. Honestly, like I could watch them again and be like, oh my gosh, these are so bad.
you're like, yeah, I'm gonna step down from this hill. Oh man. Well, I will say that much like the other ones, a positive thing is the cars and the car chases.
hmm
There's not as many in this one. I feel like that was kind of hurting a little bit. The movie did lag a little bit when um Max was kicked out and he stumbles across the kids, where it's basically like Lord of the Flies meets Hook.
Right, dude.
Like
It
it's waiting for
was,
Rufio.
dude. It was a lot like the first one where there was a mid movie uh
Lol.
lull lag,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, letdown.
Yeah. Get up and use the bathroom, come back, and you didn't miss anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. I mean, it is worth mentioning that this came out far before Hook did, but that's what it made me think of because I saw Hook before I saw this. But and I think it was in your notes too, as like the theme song
Oh yeah.
was the best theme song by far, and I think the theme song is actually better than the movie is.
Ooh, ouch. See, I will say this, like, I mean, not to like jump all the way to the end and everything, but I was kind of anticipating just because this is the well, outside of Fury Road of the Mel Gibson Mad Max movies, this was the one I had seen the most of, and
Okay,
this is the one that I remember enjoying the most. So I was kind of anticipating that this one would outperform the first two.
okay,
So I will say that it was a little surprising that it was not as good as I remember. I'll just kind of like put it that way for right now. Cuz yeah, there were some things that reminded you of the other movies but not always in a good way, like we mentioned the common element of the first movie where there's like big letdown in the middle
yeah,
where they kind of like have the momentum going and then well, actually very similar to the first one, it's almost like two different movies.
yeah, because you got the whole part with the Thunderdome, and then everything after it. It's like three different movies because like at the beginning, it's it feels more like a Mad Max movie at the beginning, and
Mhm.
then like he's fighting in Thunderdome, and it almost feels like that. I know again, like this came afterwards, but that scene in Rocky 3 or not Rocky 3, Rambo 3,
Okay.
where he's like fighting. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like at the beginning of it, where he's like fighting those people and
In that
like
like
this
street
ring of
fight
people.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, okay, this is still interesting, but and then there you get the scenes where he like meets the kids, and that's just like a change in tone almost.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't even feel like you're watching a Mad Max movie. And then all of a sudden at the end, it's like, boom, here's another high speed chase with crazy like souped up cars and wacky looking characters. I'm like, okay, now it feels like Mad Max again.
Mhm. Yeah, it so it is very interesting how there are different I don't want to say elements that necessarily make a Mad Max movie, but different unique aspects to the first two movies that, as we've kind of already been saying, that you see duplicated in this movie.
Hmm.
Not always for the better, but something that was in the second movie that is duplicated in this movie is how Mad Max is a very um self-centered, like looks out for himself,
Yeah.
tries to be a loner and that whole thing, but then his, I don't know what you want to call it, like soft side comes out and he recognizes that somebody needs his help, and then he attaches, he takes care of them, and then he kind of moves on his own way.
Hmm.
That's something between the second one and this one, the movie lull in the first one, um and then the car chase scenes was definitely a copy, or not copy, but something from the second movie that worked out really well. But it's just like they're like cherry picking things from both movies, and it's not coming together as well as you would hope. Now, one thing that I will say that they took inspiration from kind of both movies, I guess, is the trying to create iconic characters,
Yeah.
and that worked really well in this one because
Hmm.
I mean, Master Blaster, that's part of the reason why, I mean, the whole Thunderdome aspect, the character of Master Blaster, those were some of the things that made this one of mine favorite ones to watch before Fury Road came out.
Yeah.
Um so it just, maybe two Georges was too many, and
Maybe.
yeah, it kind of got convoluted.
Well, I believe, I don't know if I have this in my trivia and facts or not, but I'll share it now. I read that this movie was originally just written as a post-apocalyptic version of Lord of the Flies, where
Okay.
like a man stumbles across a civilization of children and like how they've survived and all this kind of stuff. And I guess it was George Miller's idea to make that the man Max. So then
Okay.
like rewrote part of it to make it into a Mad Max movie, which makes sense. Why
That,
it's so
yeah.
disjointed at times.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess some more of the positive stuffs, like just like the other movies, the landscapes are really great, nice to look at. This has a lot more like dunes in it. Like I feel like the it gets more desert as like the series goes on.
More
Or like
post-apocalyptic.
yeah, more like desolate areas, I guess. Like the first one, there was still like some buildings and stuff, and then the second one, it was a lot of more like badlands,
Mm-hmm.
and where this is just like big old sand dunes and like you're in the Sahara or something
Yeah.
in quicksand
Yeah. Don't forget about the quicksand
that swallows a kid.
and a horse.
Yeah, and a horse. That horse, yeah, just screw that horse.
Well, I
But we
thought that was so funny because that whole thing came about from the whole like, um,
punishment.
was it? screw a deal, face the wheel or something they said,
Yeah, it was
or
something like that. Oh man. It
um it-
was bust the deal, face the
oh
wheel.
yeah, there you go. Bust the deal, face the wheel.
Yeah.
And I was, and so then there were, so you have to spin the wheel to see your fate. I love how there was a spin again one. And then
Lose four turns.
it was like death, hard labor, and some other stuff. And then the thing that Max got was the goulash or whatever. And they basically take a perfectly good horse and waste the horse.
Yeah.
I'm like,
They just
what
like
kind of
smack him in
post-apoc?
the butt and send him off into the desert with Max on top of him, tied up with a big like mascot head on.
Yeah, like what a way, like this is post-apocalyptic. This is where all resources matter, and you're just wasting a perfectly good horse.
Right? Like you couldn't just like walked him out into the desert and left him there with Brutus
Yeah.
Buckeye's head on.
Ah.
That's salt in the wound. I just one thing I thought of, and I'm not sure how many people are even gonna think of this because it was relatively obscure. It's kind of an infamous thing in wrestling. So the or bust the deal, face the wheel. It made me think of this thing that WCW did in the early 90s, and it was called spin the wheel, make the deal.
Okay.
And where like these wrestlers had to spin this big wheel, and then like whatever it landed on was the stipulations for the match they had to have.
Nice.
And like it was executed very well, much like anything in early 90s WCW, but I'm wondering if they got inspiration from this movie.
Well, it'd be possible.
It's quite possible. If I guess it'd be a little worth looking into. I might check that out. There might be maybe one or two people listening to this that even know what the heck I'm talking about.
Not me.
Yeah. But you talked about the Master Blaster. All I could think of was the Nintendo game Master Blaster. Have you ever played that?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like this little dude that rides around in a tank.
Mm,
Yeah. Also the Master Blaster character, the little guy, the master, looked like a midget version of Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat. Like he had that weird samurai helmet thing on.
yeah.
Yeah. And then he spoke like broken English. And at first I'm just like, okay, that's his character. And then after a while it was kind of annoying me.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of get it. I think it goes into the whole like, well, it's kind of weird because like his character was supposed to be so smart, but then he didn't speak very well.
Yeah.
And this continues definitely right off of the second one, but it's just like the whole post-apocalyptic thing is still a little bit bizarre to me because we talk about the timeline over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, where the first one, like heck, let's just say Max is 20,
Okay.
where he has got his family and his and all that. You know, I mean, he appears to have been alive either during the time or not very much after the time that the downfall happened. Because
Yeah.
like there were still buildings. He was part of a police unit.
Hmm.
So there's still some structure. So let's just even say, I mean, heck, maybe 20 years has passed since his family died. Let's be generous. Let's say 20 years has passed and he's like 40.
Yeah.
The girl that is kind of like one of the main leaders for the lost kids,
Yeah.
is probably like 20.
Hmm.
So like for them to not realize and know anything of what was going on, I mean, I guess the only way that that would make sense is because they were left in the middle of nowhere. But it's just like the world was just there like 10, 20 years before you guys. It's not
Right.
that they could have lost all that information.
Well, then like the main leader of it, the guy that was almost like their Rufio,
Yeah.
like he was definitely old enough.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then even from the standpoint, if of if they had the information of the captain guy who left, that means that somebody was there at some point in time that had the correct information, but then they just never shared it.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of some of the nitpicky details and everything. I think I still kind of go back to, and we talked more about last time, where the original Mad Max was meant to be a little bit more post-apocalyptic, kind of more rundown world than it really was.
I feel like I feel like the first one was more of like an anarchy. Like there was no government
Yeah.
more than like post-apocalyptic. When I think post-apocalyptic, I think like somebody dropped a bunch of nukes on a place and it's just
Yeah.
like rubble, barren wastelands, like a bunch of dead people and then like a few survivors that form into groups, which was more like the second and then this one,
Mhm.
where like the first one was more of just like it's a lawless land and there's only like a small group of police that have to like uh bring justice to the masses
Yeah.
kind of thing.
No, I totally agree. Like, and that's kind of the interesting thing where I don't think a lot of people have seen the first one. And I'm probably repeating myself a little bit here, but it's just like the first Mad Max movie is kind of in its own little sphere, its own little
Yeah.
world, because the second one, Beyond Thunderdome, and then of course I can say Fury Road and Furiosa just because those two are associated, and I've seen Fury Road, so I know this,
Hmm.
are all in that post-apocalyptic style,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
that's what Mad Max is associated with. So I don't need to drum it up anymore. It's just kind of one of those things where it's just like if it, I kind of feel like if somebody was talking about this from an aspect of, I don't know, maybe kind of like a purist perspective, it would be like, oh, well, this isn't what Mad Max really was or was really meant to be. Um, and so it gets kind of muddied and confusing in a little bit, and so I feel like, I don't know, I kind of have to bring it up a little bit each time because of how weird it is to me, especially from the aspect that this is the first time that I'm watching these three movies back to back to back. So
Hmm.
it really kind of puts that into clear perspective on being like, they don't fit together as well as I think people remember.
Yeah, it's kind of the only other film franchises that I can really compare it to where the first one isn't the most watched of the bunch would be The Terminator
Okay.
and Friday the 13th. Because like Friday the 13th was just Mrs. Voorhees killing people. And
Whoa.
everybody hears Friday the 13th and they instantly think of Jason. But
Yeah.
Jason wasn't around until the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was at the end of the first one. But I mean, like Jason in the form that we all know wasn't even around until like the third one. So
Yeah.
we're like this, people, like associate the post-apocalyptic rundown world, and that the first one really doesn't have much of that. Like I
No.
said, it's more of like just like a lawless land with a small group of police trying to bring justice.
Yeah, I mean, heck, Max had a house with a kitchen and coffee and a
Yeah,
wife and a kid that he let play with his gun, by the
and
way.
his wife who had a saxophone,
Yeah.
like she was auditioning for the soundtrack of Lethal Weapon.
Yep.
Oh,
I
you
had
want to
that.
talk about saxophone like that? We brought that into this movie. That
Yep.
ties it to the first one.
Hmm.
They play some sexy sax when they show Tina Turner.
Yeah, I actually put down that there might be too much sax.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna bust out Private Dancer for a second. Like, it doesn't really fit much in this movie, but hey, let's go for it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, they kind of had that part where they introduced her and then there was saxophone. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. But then they carried the saxophone through like the entire movie, and I was like, okay, now it's getting a little corny.
Yeah. The only thing I could really say about this movie, where for the feel of it, is it struck me right from the beginning where they play that Tina Turner song at the beginning,
Mhm.
and I was just like, man, they really 80s this movie up. Let's have this big theme song by a popular artist, and then also have her act in the movie.
Um,
Yeah. And then the whole thing with, well, Mel had enormous hair, like he was part of Poison or something at the beginning,
oh, dude, he
until he
was
meets the kids and then they trim it down.
yeah, he was totally like in Braveheart,
Yeah.
um, in his Braveheart hairdo there.
Dude, and he was even wearing like a kilt too at one point.
Mhm.
And that's immediately what I thought of. Also, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really digging Mel's long hair. Like, he doesn't have the big poofy mullet kind of look like he did in Lethal Weapon, but it was more just like long, poofy mall hair.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, well, obviously, like the most famous thing from this movie is Thunderdome itself.
Oh yeah.
The whole structure is kind of cool. Um, it's like basically just big domed cage, and a bunch of people are hanging on it, and then they hang a bunch of weapons on it, and
Mhm.
then like they put two guys in there and they fight to the death. Um, the only thing I would have changed is I wouldn't have put the bungee cables on them. I
Yeah.
thought that was really clunky and awkward. Like it looked like a, yeah, it looks like a when you watch a making of some of those martial arts movies where they fly around everywhere and you can see the wire harness.
Oh yeah.
That's what it looked like. And like, oh, wee, they're like flying around.
Dude, it totally made me think of American Gladiator.
Yes. Tonight we have Mad Max versus Pyro in the Eliminator. Exactly. That's funny you say that. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's definitely American Gladiators.
Mhm.
I thought that didn't even get like super cool until after both of them like broke their bungee cables.
Yeah, it was a little bit more cheesy before that.
Yeah, and then it was a little more realistic, and you could see like Max is super resourceful and smart, while the blaster is, just
Just a
a
brute.
brute. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like watching like Rocky versus Clubber Lang or something, where this
Mhm.
guy has all the power and like the other guy's like the smarter fighter. Then he gets that whistle and blows it, and it like hurts Blaster's head, and he knocks the helmet off and sees he's like, I don't know, slow or something.
He's got like Down syndrome or
Like
something.
a baby face too. But
Yeah. And I mean, I get the aspect of being like, oh, I feel like I can't kill him because he doesn't really know what he's doing. But also at the same time, it's like this story could have been completely different because Max could have done what he said he was going to do and just killed him and then been done with it.
yeah,
Because I mean, let's face it, Blaster wasn't exactly the nicest person.
right.
So,
He
and
should
then he
just killed
wound up dying,
Master.
and then he wound up dying anyways.
Yeah.
But well, no, they didn't want Master to die. Remember,
Uh,
when they needed to keep Master alive because he was the smart one. He was the brains.
who couldn't barely speak.
Yeah,
Oh man. Oh, another thing that I thought of with this movie is like how much did Tina Turner's ears hurt from wearing those massive metal earrings?
dude. Okay,
They
I
had to
think
weigh quite a bit.
yeah, totally. Did you? So do you have information in the?
I
Um.
have about her dress.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But I don't have anything about the earrings. Like those said to be like stretching her ears out.
Yeah, because I've got some things here, and if you don't mention it in her notes, like she went all in for this movie, and it was pretty impressive um with her outfit and all. So
Yeah, well, I'll do trivia and facts here. Let's talk about the kind of the ending of the movie, and then we'll get into trivia and facts.
Okay.
So the ending, like we get the big race, and Max gets the kids like to the pilot, and they get all in this plane, and they're gonna take off. Like the bad guys are bearing down on him, and he's like, "There's not enough runway," and Max like reassures him that there is, and then he takes off, and Max takes off in a car and like rams the one dude and sends him flying, and they crash and everything, and then Max is thrown from the car, and they show like the bad guy, and he's like you can only see his arm sticking out, and,
Yeah.
and then he flips Max off. I'm like, that is lame.
Oh, no, it was so it that character, which we haven't even brought up yet, was they were doing a lot of comical stuff with it, and that was one of the things I hated the most about this movie, to be completely honest.
Hmm. It goes back to like the uneven tone.
Yeah.
This movie is very uneven in its tone.
Hmm.
But trivia and facts?
Well, a little bit more, just right about the end is that it's another one of those situations where it's just like there are so many times that like the Max's story could just end.
Yeah,
Like,
somebody could just easily kill him.
yeah, they could just easily kill him and whatever. And I mean, so at the end when Tina goes and tells everybody to chase them down and get the master back, she's like, have no mercy on them.
Hmm.
But then they catch Max at the end and she just leaves him there alive.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like I thought about for a minute and I was kind of like, that's kind of dumb and contradictory because like you said you were going to kill him and
Hmm.
then you just left him. Now, the only thing that kind of popped in my mind a little bit was the aspect of technically by the law standards, like he paid his due for busting the deal. So
Yeah.
she may have kind of been like, hey, credit to you, like props to you. You actually did it. You actually survived that. And so you kind of already did that what you were supposed to. But it still doesn't count for like he helped the master escape. And so she basically said she was planning to kill them. So just like some more inconsistencies with it where I wasn't exactly impressed by it. But
Yeah. My feeling was like, that's the end.
yeah.
That's how this ends. That's how they
Hmm.
ended the trilogy, this movie, for quite a while.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, my feelings on it. But trivia. So Tina Turner had to shave her head for the wig to fit properly. She actually had no problem with that and went along with it. Which, I mean, I it was widely known that like Tina Turner always wore wigs.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure like how much prep she had to do for this movie to have that wig.
Gotcha.
Because the woman had massive hair in the 80s and it was obviously a wig. And she
Mm.
used to tell everybody that and had no problem with it. But, so the sandstorm at the end of the film was actually real, and a camera plane flew into it for some shots. The storm in its entirely hit the yeah, sorry. In its entirety hit the crew in the desert, forcing them to ride out in their cars and whatever they could find cover.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Max's eyes are different. The pupil on his left eye is permanently dilated. This is a nod to the Road Warrior, where his car was forced off the road by Wheeze and Max crashes and he suffers an injury to, among other body parts, his left eye. The disparity is easier to see in close ups and is very easy to see in high definition versions of the film. In the regular film, it is prominent when Max looks down at the Thunderdome for the first time.
Okay.
So it kind of goes with the continuity that we talked about last time, where like
Hmm.
you get the leg brace and everything.
Yeah, there's certain things that they do really well, and then other things where they're just like, forget about it.
Yeah. Again, same thing with Friday 13th.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff like that that would happen in that movie. So the script called for anti-entity to drive a vehicle. All of the vehicles were built using manual transmissions, which Tina Turner couldn't drive, so they had to equip a car with an automatic transmission, um, so that she could drive it.
Mm,
So Tina Turner's steel mail dress weighed more than 121 pounds.
that's insane,
Yeah. Well, Tina Turner couldn't even have really weighed 121 pounds.
right?
Blows my mind. Uh, but she was always known for being like super in shape and having like crazy stamina, like the fast paced dancing and stuff she used to always do, like in her
Mhm.
shows and concerts, even up until she was like 70 some years old. So, and she passed away not too long ago.
Yeah.
Um, so this is the final movie of Angelo Rossito, who played the Master, whose career lasted nearly 60 years.
Huh.
Yeah. It's the first of the franchise made in the U.S. financing, with the U.S. financing it, which explains why Tina Turner appeared in the film.
Right.
So the part of Anti-Entity was actually written specifically for Tina Turner, even though she hadn't been approached about appearing in the movie.
That just seems so weird to me.
Yeah, I don't understand it. So the working title of the movie, to keep it secret, was um, Desert World. At the time of shooting, this is the most expensive movie to be made entirely in Australia. And I think I said that last time with the last movie,
I think
so
you
it
did.
topped it. And the budget for it was $10 million, and the box office was 36.
Okay.
So it did relatively well, just not as good as the other ones did.
Yeah.
But the other ones also had lower budgets. Grades, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think
Uh,
they are?
I may have accidentally seen IMDb. Is it 6.2?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, actually the lowest rating of all three so
Yeah.
far. So a little bit surprising, a little bit not kind of. Critic 68%.
79.
Oh, okay.
Kind of surprised.
Audience 70.
49.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, oh, didn't you say you had some Tina Turner facts?
No, you covered it.
I covered it all? Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Rock.
So I had I was it randomly came across one of my feeds of some information about this movie, and so I captured it and put it down, and just in case it wasn't something that you had. So
Rock. So, our grades. You want to go first?
sure. So I was kind of a little tentatively prepared that this might have been my best rated movie out of the three, but ironically enough, even though it is out of the first three, the original Mad Max or Mel Gibson Mad Max movies, this is the one that I've watched the most. It was rather disappointing, and I think one of the biggest elements, and kind of you summarized it pretty well, it's just super inconsistent, and the tone of the movie changes too much.
Yeah.
Like, I would almost say it would have been better if they took on the whole aspect. Now, granted, this is also the first one that's rated PG-13. So a little bit of irony there. Like it was almost like they were trying to make it more teen or kid friendly.
Yeah.
With that whole like missing youths or tribe of kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it just did not work. It ventured too far away. Like they had some things that they were keeping consistent, and then some things that that they were keeping weren't working super well. So overall, it was kind of moving in the wrong direction. The ending was not super impactful. The lull in the middle of the movie was a letdown again.
Yeah.
So even though this is a very entertaining movie, it is easy to say that out of the first three, it is not the best. So I am dropping this one down. Um, the first two I rated fours out of five. This one I'm giving a 3.5 out of five. I thought about maybe going lower, but I didn't feel like it was that bad to warrant a significant drop.
Okay.
Because again, for me, it's saving grace is the entertainment factor. Like even though it does have its lulls and everything, and even though like the highs aren't super high, it has, the Thunderdome. They did Bartertown, which actually we didn't even get into about how impressive that was and how much money they must have put into making that whole thing, that whole set. But yeah, I landed at a 3.5 out of 5.
Rock. Yeah, pretty much everything you said. It was a kind of a letdown a little bit from the first two. Especially the second one. I thought the second one, by far has been the best so far that we've seen. It was more nonstop action, where this one I felt like could have used a little bit more of that.
Hmm.
And to me, like this movie felt like some of the later Star Wars sequels, like when they first brought back like the original cast, whatever year that was, The Force Awakens or whatever it was,
Yeah.
where like, okay, all the pieces are here, and like it still doesn't really feel like a Star Wars movie. Where like this one's kind of like that too. It's like, okay, obviously you got Mel Gibson, you got the dude that played the gyro captain in the second movie, and you got the high speed chase at the end, and like at the beginning you got all this um shanty town kind of set up. Everything's like made out of rusted steel and all that kind of stuff. Like that feels like Mad Max. But then you had this whole thing in the middle where he stumbles across these kids and they like nurture him back, and then he leads them in a rebellion. I'm like, this does not feel like a Mad Max movie in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that part kind of missed the mark. And like I said, it's the most 80s out of all these movies.
Hmm.
Just the over the top excess, and the fact that, they have a singer as like the main antagonist, and yeah, it's just kind of funny, I guess. I feel like they could have done a little bit better with it. So I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 because it still is entertaining. It's just, that break in the middle of like 20 minutes to a half hour that nothing really happens
Hmm.
was a little rough.
You get like a little history lesson.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, can we get back to Thunderdome and everything going on with Tina Turner and all that?
Yeah,
But
we need to see somebody die.
yeah, somebody needs to die or something needs to explode. Maybe Michael Bay should have made it,
Yes.
would have more explosions. But yeah, I think was that my lowest rated one? I can't remember. I think I gave Mad Max the original one a 3.5
Yeah, you went 3.5 for the first
or
one, 4, and then you went
3.
3 for this one.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so I'd say it's pretty fair.
yeah.
Yeah, so next time we're gonna be talking about one I've seen before, so that's good. It's been about a year since I watched it, and then watched it once, so I enjoyed it. So we'll see how the second viewing goes. I know it is a movie you've seen quite a few times, and it's one of your favorite movies.
Just a couple times.
Yeah. We're gonna be talking about Mad Max Fury Road, and I don't know. We're probably not gonna be able to do Furiosa because you'd have to go to the theater to see it. Neither one of us really has time to do that.
Got all the time in the world, man. No.
Right. And it hasn't popped up on streaming yet, so if it
Yeah.
does before the end of the month, then maybe we'll jump on it. If not, then we might have to kick that can down the road and finish it out.
Yeah.
But if you guys are liking the Mad Max series, you can go back listen to the first two if you haven't. If this is the first one you've listened to, um, we got some other like similar things that we've done too, with where we covered like entire series. There's like countless things that we've done like
Lethal
that.
Weapon.
Yeah,
If
Lethal
you if you
Weapon. If
like
you
Mel
like,
Gibson.
yeah, if you're into Mel, there you go.
Mad
We did the
Mel.
whole Die Hard series. There's another action movies that were in the 80s, so check those out. Please subscribe and share. Follow us on social media. We are on pretty much every platform. We got lots of content coming out, videos, posts, whatnot. So be sure to follow us. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.